What's up, guys? Another week, another Twitter mailbag. I appreciate everyone's questions. You guys have been great. But without further ado, let's just jump right into it. Question number one comes from my man, Michael Fidel, who asks, who's one young prospect who you rarely hear talk of, yet you think could be a future world champion or top contender? I got two answers for you, just because I'm incapable of picking just one. Coming up on the Contender Series on September 1st, taking on Draco Rodriguez is Mana Martinez. I've mentioned him, I think, in a previous mailbag before. Kid's excellent. Really flown under the radar. Super flashy striker. Pretty much exactly what the UFC is looking for. Just a matter of, how far along in his progression is he. I think one day he'll get to that contender status. Even if he loses on Contender Series, I don't think that he has much to worry about for his future. So look for him coming up here against Draco Rodriguez. Second guy isn't in the UFC, just turned pro. Muhammad Makayev for Brave CF. He went like 23-0 as an amateur or something. Just an incredible athlete. A guy that I know for an amateur to have any buzz, it shows you something. So I expect big things out of him. And who knows, man? I mean, the sky could be the limit for him, really. Question number two comes from Doug E. Fresh, at Doug E. Fresh 1308, asks, we know this is Cormier's last fight, so if DC wins, does Stipe get a shot at the title he just lost against Francis Ngannou? Who do you most believe is next for a title shot? I mean, like Dana White said in a recent interview with Kevin Iole, it's hard to foresee a circumstance in which Francis Ngannou does not get the next title shot. But there are some ifs here, obviously. If Cormier goes out and wins, if Cormier actually sticks to his guns and stays retired. So at that point, if the belt gets vacated, I think you'd have to match up Miocic with Francis Ngannou. I mean, as it sits right now, coming into UFC 252, a lot of people think that Stipe Miocic is the greatest heavyweight ever. Some think Cormier is the greatest. Say Stipe is the second greatest heavyweight of all time, or the third if you want to throw Fedor in there. I think that he's done enough in the UFC and been, sure, he's had ups and downs, but he's rebounded. I mean, he lost his belt, he won it. He's proven himself to be able to overcome adversity, and to me, he's done enough to earn that rematch. So I think Ngannou versus Miocic too is a fairly marketable fight. I mean, Francis has looked like a new monster since he lost that first one, so let's run it back. I know it sucks for Curtis Blades, not ideal for the guy. If he was in a different division with as much as he's been able to accomplish, he probably would have gotten a title shot. Just unfortunately for him, things have been a little tied up, and Francis is next in line. Third question comes from James McJohnson, who asks, how legit of a chance does Chido have? He had a pretty good streak going on before his last fight. So Chidover is fighting Sean O'Malley this weekend. If you didn't know that, you're probably living under a rock. Co-main event, UFC 252. Big fight for Chido, big fight for O'Malley, big showcase fight for both of them. So does he have a legitimate chance? 100%. I mean, Chidover is the toughest test that Sean O'Malley has fought thus far by leaps and bounds. Sean had a few fights in the UFC against guys that were kind of at the bottom of the division. Guys like Terrion Ware, who's no longer in the UFC, Andre Sukumtat, who's no longer in the UFC, Jose Quinones, who is still in the UFC, and then he just had the fight against Eddie Wineland, of course. So for me, I mean, Sean's taken, leaps and bounds. He's gotten leaps and bounds better in between every fight, but fighting Eddie Wineland in 2020 versus Chidover in 2020 are two totally different beasts. Chido is a hard guy to beat. Not many guys have signed up to fight him. And I think he's got as good of a chance as anybody O'Malley's fought. He's got a better chance than anybody O'Malley's fought. So Sean's going to bring his A game. I think Chido is a live dog here and is kind of overlooked by Sean's stardom. I think one way or another, it's going to be a good scrap.